What is up, guys? DS3 TV here, and we are here for another video. So today we're watching Kraut, the origins of American gun culture, and so this one should be a good video. We love Kraut on this channel, and let's watch this and see what we can learn about where did American gun culture start at. So yeah, let's get into it. And also subscribe to the channel. We want to get 1,000 subscribers before Valentine's Day, and by Valentine's Day. Also, put any videos that you want me to react to in the comment section down below and play.
If you look at all the maps of the Spanish Empire you can find, you will notice that the Spaniards claimed far more land than they actually had, claims that were sometimes outright ridiculous, costly, and completely unenforceable. However, in North America, not only did they claim more than they actually had, but being that they were the first to colonize the American continents, one has to wonder why they failed at enforcing all their claims. Claims that stretched from Alabama to Minnesota to Alaska and even to Hawaii, over a total of what are today 27 US states. Guns and property is the short answer. The Spanish came to the New World to conquer existing societies, build new societies, and mold it all into their global empire. Unlike the Dutch, British, and French, who mainly had financial interests, the Spanish idea of empire had more in common with how the Romans built empires. They wished to export the Spanish way of life, assimilate conquered people into their society, and enforce a Spanish social structure upon their subjects. And part of Spanish colonial life was that the colonials were strictly forbidden from owning firearms. Colonial subjects didn't own firearms or even property, but were mostly day laborers on plantations and mining complexes owned by corporate interests like the Basque Guipuzcoan Trading Company. When Spain came to the New World, it encountered large native kingdoms such as the Aztecs, so Spain brought an army and conquered them. But when the Spaniards encountered nomadic native nations in places like Chile, Texas, Venezuela, and New Mexico, they ran into trouble. You can conquer Tenochtitlan, but how do you conquer a constantly moving group of peoples not dependent on one particular spot of land? The Spaniards encountered the same nomadic warfare that bested the Romans, Russians, and Chinese before them, and since they banned their citizens from owning firearms, the only way a semblance of security could be established was by an expensive military presence. In short, it was only safe to live where the Spanish crown stationed troops. Elsewhere, well, not so much. Caracas was burned down by a native warband when it was ungarrisoned by the Spanish army. The Spaniards fought an almost 300-year-long war with the Apaches, Suma and Mansu throughout northern Mexico, Texas, Nevada and New Mexico. And unlike the wars we know from popular culture involving the Americans from much later, the Spaniards lost. Ranches were burnt to the ground, mines destroyed, and entire towns pillaged and burnt. The Spanish army was hopelessly lost in this vast region, perfect for ambushes and hit-and-run attacks. Spanish settlers were barred from owning any firearms or form militias to defend themselves. Whatever expedition pushed further north and to the east didn't fare any better. Spanish expeditions sent to explore and settle Georgia, Alabama and Mississippi just disappeared, and presumably because they were wiped out by the Cherokee. Then in the 1600s, the Spaniards started executing Pueblo shamans for sorcery and witchcraft. The Pueblo, who were a settled people, rebelled and kicked the Spaniards out of Santa Fe and the Rio Grande Valley, restricting Spanish activity to southern Texas and California from then on. The Spanish colonial social order didn't allow for a successful settling of this area, as it was unequipped to conquer and assimilate nomadic natives or patrol the vast lands. The British had a completely different colonial policy. They explicitly encouraged their colonial subjects to own firearms. More than that, they handed out the land they had taken from the natives to settlers. And that land, aka property, is the reason why most of these settlers came in the first place. Europe was a mess of large landowners, serfdom, high grain taxes, and famines. Political rights, if existent at all, were also tied to how much property a person owned. Having a plot of land that was your own was a prospect irresistible to many, and irresistible to the British Crown was what these settlers would do on that property. Buy slaves, grow cash crops, sell them to British trading companies, and thereby increase the wealth of the empire. And the British also allowed the means of defending that property. The settlers would be personally invested in their colonial property and thereby the colonial economy. The British would profit, not have to spend money on an expensive large standing army, could invest in a large navy to bully others,
which makes sense, and they don't have to really worry about trying to, like how Spain probably like really was just fighting a war on multiple different fronts, and they didn't have to if they would have just given their citizens guns. So yeah, I can understand that.
and the armed colonials would take care of the French, natives and Spaniards because they weren't just protecting the empire but their own property.
Yeah.
The mistake the British made in the end was assuming that this colonial strategy wouldn't backfire.
Yeah.
The colonial policy of
Also, it's a problem with giving too much freedom, and you know, because not enough freedom is definitely terrible, but giving like too much freedom can also be terrible for the person that gave them freedom, because as you can see with America, they might just say, "Oh yeah, we're not a part of you guys anymore. We want to be independent."
handing out the land and permitting the ownership of guns for settlers is one the British practiced in every colony they settled, which is why all these countries have less constraining laws on private gun ownership to this day, except for those who in modern days introduced gun control laws. The United States, however, is different from the other colonies. Guns and the gun culture that developed became tied to property. The reason one owned a gun was to protect what was yours or what you had taken from others. It became essential to the promise of the country to those who came to it, but also part of its darkest chapters. As much as you may read or hear of the American gun culture as something tied to a violent history, racism, hunting, frontier life or other, and as much as you might hear debates by legal scholars and politicians theorize the modern and past meanings of the Second Amendment, the truth of the matter is that this country's gun culture developed out of and goes hand in hand with the promise of owning your own property and being permitted to defend what is yours.
Yeah.
And that is a powerful drive that is hard to break. German and French gun culture revolved around having guns to kill each other. Polish gun culture revolves around being prepared for invasion. Same with Swiss gun culture. And as Europe increasingly became a more peaceful place, these gun cultures, and with them the ownership of guns, eroded or were drastically changed and reinvented. The United States have barely enacted any regulations to limit ownership of firearms, even when a sizable amount of the population used said firearms in an armed insurrection to keep slavery legal. If the Americans didn't restrict firearms ownership after they were used in an attempt to keep slavery legal, I doubt they will do so now after massacres and increased gun crime.
Yeah.
There is, however, one thing that is steadily undermining the United States gun culture and might...
But also what I never understood about, I guess this would be more for like when I start doing political videos, I guess. I will go more deep into like why I say this. But I also feel like that you should not ban all guns, for the simple fact is people would break the law anyway. You should at least be able to defend yourself against someone else that has a gun. Like, that's something I definitely believe in, that you should be able to defend yourself. Like, if someone else has a gun because they broke the law by getting a gun illegally, you don't have any gun because you're an illegal abiding citizen, it's nothing stopping them from shooting. So yeah, like honestly, I seen it. Like I seen that work in Japan. You know, you guys might say that in the comment section, but Japan is definitely a different country than how we are anyway. Like they realize that you can't shoot. That probably you shouldn't shoot people. That's why they stopped kind of having shooting deaths, but they still have had other ways of people being killed. Like here. Probably it's a lot of ways to get illegal guns. If guns were just banned by tomorrow, people would still keep their guns or still like it's a lot. But yeah, I just don't feel like that's that you should ban all guns. That's something that I don't believe that you should be able to do. Yeah.
Eventually be its undoing, something that is largely unnoticed in the modern gun debate. Ownership of private property is on the decline. And with the American gun culture being so deeply tied to property rights, what is most likely to in the end change the legal landscape on firearms in the United States is the change of American society itself from property owners into indebted, rent-paying day laborers.
pretty good video. Yeah, definitely. I really do kind of want to make that. I kind of do want to make that a series on my channel. I might do it soon. Maybe over this winter break, I might have the time to be able to do it. But yeah, so talk to you guys in the next video, and I mean the next video. And also subscribe to our channel. Want to get to 1,000 subscribers by Valentine's Day. And yeah, talk to you guys in the next video. Recommend me videos that you want me to watch, and peace.